Kashmir's semi-autonomous status in 2019. And we're joined on the line this morning by human rights activist, media coordinator of Let Kashmir Decide. We're joined by Waqas Akram. Waqas, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam. Good morning. How are you?
Yes, Alhamdulillah, Jummah Mubarak to you, and wonderful that you are able to join us. We do appreciate you taking time out to talk to us at Salam Media this morning. Now, it is clear that journalists in Kashmir are under threat. If we go by what the actions of the police in Kashmir have been and raiding the homes of journalists, and clearly these are triggers for huge concern, Wakas.
Yes, that's right. Actually, this is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. The situation there is very, very bad. There are severe human rights abuses going on there by the Indian occupied forces. And no international media outlet is allowed to go into the Indian occupied Kashmir for like any kind of coverage. Like the BBC, the Zira, or any independent international media outlet, they are banned, and Indian government is not. They do not allow them to get into Kashmir to cover the current situation. And yes, and the local journalists, they are also getting harassed by the Indian occupied forces there. Their homes, like the forces are getting into their homes without any kind of permission, and like the harassment cases, and also they are putting pressure on them that not to cover the stories. So these type of situations that the Kashmiri people are facing there in Indian occupied Kashmir. So I'm glad that now, even from the South Africa, you have, even though there are like so many restrictions there inside the Kashmir, the news are not coming out to the people of the world. But still, I'm glad to hear that you are from like the South Africa, and even in South Africa, you know that what is going on there with the journalists or with the local public there in Indian occupied forces. So this is good, and we really appreciate your help and your voice and your concern. And also, we will, we are like the Kashmir is really thankful to your media channel for raising voice for the Kashmiri people. And also, we will request the common people there in your country, in South Africa, to raise voice for the oppressed people of Kashmir, please.
Yes, obviously, here in South Africa, there is great concern, and there has been over the years, as far as the situation in Kashmir is concerned. There's been a lot of talk, there's been a lot of lobbying done on the part of the government to take the Kashmiri issue more seriously, and at the same time, to also look at and review their relationship with the Indian government because of all the atrocities and the injustices that are taking place in Kashmir. Now, just looking at journalists, and how difficult is it being a journalist, considering that many have been arrested, many have been beaten, they've been arrested, and to the extent that the Indian government is using anti-terror legislation to investigate these journalists.
Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right. Like journalists, they are booked under like the terrorism cases there, and like journalism is not a crime, but in Indian occupied Kashmir, it is considered a crime. And this is really like in this 21st century, no one can imagine that like any government can book any journalist under the terrorism cases. That is like weird. So yeah, they are threatening to the local journalists, and also like there was a very like one journalist. Her name was Mustarrat Zahra, and she was just a photo journalist. She was just taking the photos of the like different incidents, and she was publishing those in different newspapers. She also got booked under the terrorism case here in Indian occupied Kashmir by the Indian occupied forces. So yeah, this is really concerning, and like this is a violation of the international law as well.
Well, certainly is, because I mean, with journalism being totally criminalized by the Indian authorities, also one issue that we'd like to focus on, Wakas, is talking about social media, because again, social media leaves journalists open to the Indian government in terms of them being identified and further reprisals on the part of the Indian government. So this again, another platform that journalists are at a disadvantage, particularly those who are on social media.
Yeah, yeah, right. I agree with you. The thing is, number one, the thing is like the social media there in Indian occupied Kashmir, mostly after August 5th of 2019, they just like banned any kind of internet access there. There was no 3G or 4G available in the valley, and for a long, long time there was no internet access, and social media was also banned. The Twitter accounts were taken down by the Twitter. And then government was like they were complaining to the Twitter, even though if you just do a simple tweet on Kashmir, then the Twitter was taking those accounts down, and also like there was no such you can say the freedom to express the views openly on the social media. So if someone was doing that, then Indian government, their occupied forces were taking that person into the custody, and they were like harassing them, threatening them, and booking under arresting them, and also like putting them under different false cases. So same is the situation with the print media, and also like I mean everywhere you will see this kind of situation there in all over the Indian occupied Kashmir.
Yes, and just finally, Wakas, do you think the mainstream media right across the entire world is doing enough? Are they saying enough as far as the plight of Kashmir goes?
Actually, this is a very minimum coverage that international media outlets are giving to the Kashmir, like the BBC, like the New York Times. But one thing is, I would say, is a little bit positive that after August 5th of 2019, like before August 5th, there was, you can say, like no coverage at all. So very rare we saw before August 15 that the big media outlets they were covering any story on Kashmir. But after August 15, 2019, yes, the New York Times we have seen that like couple of articles were published on Kashmir in New York Times. BBC also covered like different stories there. But still, the thing is, with still the coverage on Kashmir is not that we expect. So and also one more reason is I believe there is an Indian influence in these media outlets, and they are under that like Indian lobby and their influence. So that's why I believe they hesitate to give coverage on the incidents that are happening in Kashmir. But they need to now. I can say that I will request international or the Western and American media outlets or other international media outlets that they should not see the things with the eyes of like any kind of influence or like any financial interest or other things. They should see things with the eyes of humanity. So that humanity demands like they should give more coverage because there are like severe human right violations. I would say human right abuses going on in the valley, and international media, this modern and civilized world, must need to highlight and put and the media, like in current era, it's the greatest tool to it effects on the country policies, and it also affects on the international world opinion. So the international media role is very, very important, and having said that, they should look things with the eyes of the humanity, and they should highlight the human rights abuses that are going on in Indian occupied Kashmir.
Well, Waqas, Jazakallah khairan for your time with us this morning. We do appreciate you taking time out talking to us this morning out of Kashmir, and we wish you well. Our prayers, our du'as are with the people of Kashmir as well. Allah make it easy for them, and all the best to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
These days, I'm more health conscious than ever. So tonight it's stir fry for dinner, cooked in healthy Helios pure sunflower cooking oil. Helios is pure sunflower goodness, packed with omega-6. That's good for your heart, and is approved as part of the Heart and Stroke Foundation eating plan. Dinner's ready! Helios, pure sunflower cooking oil. A healthy family is a happy one.
A strip of land with over 2 million people blockaded for